Hi everyone, this is Zainab and I welcome you to another card making tutorial. In this video, I will walk you through how to make this fun fold card which is sure to surprise the recipient. I start off with a piece of cardstock measuring 10 3/4 of an inch by 5.5 inches. I score it at 1 5/8 of an inch and then at 3 1/4 of an inch. Then I flip the cardstock over and score again at 1 5/8 of an inch and 3 1/4 of an inch from the edge. I do a valley fold and a mountain fold on the score lines on both edges of the cardstock and reinforce it with my bone folder to get crisp lines. And then we end up with a funny shape like this. Don't worry, it looks weird now, but it'll all make sense soon. With the flaps folded down, the card measures 4 1/4 inches in width and 5.5 inches in height. So it's a regular A2 card size, which will fit in your regular A2 envelopes. I went ahead and cut 4 consecutive rectangles, the largest one measuring 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and the smallest one measuring 2 1/4 inches by 3.5 inches. Now comes the fun part, embossing. I used Traces of Yesterday embossing folder, and I positioned the pieces of cardstock on the folder where I wanted it to be. And look at that. Look at all the dimension. Isn't that amazing? I used a smaller one as well. I'm here just moving it around to see where I like the design best. I put some temporary adhesive tape on the flaps so that I have a flat surface to work on. I always dry set my pieces to make sure I'm headed in the right direction. I really don't want to have to go back and die cut and emboss pieces again after having spent so much time and effort on it. And in the process, sometimes I change my mind about where I want certain elements, or if I want to add certain elements or take away certain elements and replace them with something else. Here I am bringing in the stamp set to add UR to complete the sentiment. Say hello to my well-loved and well-used stamp wheel, and you can tell by the color of the sticky mat how much I use it. Here I'm using an anti-static powder tool to rub the surface before I start inking and embossing the sentiment. Now while I have everything set up, I might as well just make 2 of the sentiment in case I mess up somehow. I like having a backup. So when I pour the embossing powder down, I like to leave it for a few seconds before I tap it off. I feel that the powder sticks better on the ink. I don't know if it's a proven science or not, but that's just how I do it. Here you can see my sentiments are beautifully embossed and ready to go. So remember earlier I mentioned that I change my mind as I go along when I'm dry setting. So here I am trying to figure out which way the sentiment should go. I wasn't exactly happy with how it was looking. I would have liked to put the banner this way, but then the words were in the wrong direction and it didn't make sense to me. So I'm still fiddling around with the sentiment, and I should mention that there's a very tiny little tittle for the timeless die set, which I almost lost a few times. So just bear in mind when you're die cutting this piece that you don't lose it. I pre-cut and assembled the sand timer that you see here, and I used the Timeless Sands die set. When I was fiddling around with the sentiment, I realized that I didn't quite like the plain cream color of the sand timer. So I thought maybe the blue would look good, but when I put the blue on the blue cardstock, it wasn't standing out so much. So here I am cleaning my stamp wheel sticky mat and using a different color now to get the look that I want. This set of inks that I'm using here are recently becoming some of my favorite colors, and I've used them on quite a few projects now. The name of the ink set is Jewel Tones. I think it came out a long time ago, but I've only recently started experimenting and enjoying them. So I'm using here raw amber and a little bit of red jasper to get the color that I really like. And you'll see once I put it on the card background, it really pops. I always find a way to add florals in my card, even if it's one twig or one little petal or leaf here or there. But for this card, I wanted to challenge myself and keep it non-floral. So I encourage you to challenge yourself and use products that you wouldn't normally use, and try a layout that isn't your normal style. You learn a lot about yourself and the way you craft. So you see here I'm putting glue on just one edge of the cardstock. This is so that we can still open and close the fun fold without any issues. I do the same thing on the smaller piece. Now, as you can see, the two pieces put together need to interlock so that the card can close properly. So again, just glue on the edge where it doesn't interfere with any of the other pieces. I forgot to hit the record button, so you don't see me gluing down all my embellishment pieces. But here we are now with everything stuck in place. I'm just trying to determine what sequence I want to add onto the card. So I have the stellar sequence in dazzling diamond and some gold sequence from many years ago. So I start off with these gold ones, but I realize that there's not enough variety of size. So I go back to the dazzling diamond sequence, which has like 6 sizes. So that gives you enough variety to scatter around on the card. With all the sequins in place exactly where I want them, I put some liquid glue before I accidentally bump into the card and everything goes all over the place. I'm sure that's happened to you. It's happened to me more than I can count. Once I have all the sequins in place, I bring out the metallic watercolors from Altenew, and I decide to challenge myself and put splatter on a finished card project. Now that's very dangerous and I don't recommend it, but I was very careful. I did a test run on some scrap piece of cardstock. I used the Altenew brushes as well, and I wanted to make sure that I was happy with the kind of splatter that I would get. Don't worry, it all worked out quite well. I didn't get any big blobs that messed up my card front. I was extremely careful about the kind of splatter I was getting. I purposely kept them tiny so the mess ups weren't very obvious. I moved on to a slightly bigger brush. I think it was the number 4 to get a little bit more defined splatter. And just to play it safe, I used the gold metallic pen to add some bigger dots to fake the splatter. I think it all turned out well. I got sequins, I got metallic paint, and I got the marker. It added to the texture, and in the end it worked out quite well. So sometimes doing something crazy and dangerous has its rewards. So you should try it once in a while. So here's my finished card project. The two rectangular focal pieces interlock together to close the card, and when you open it up, you have space to write your personal message. I added a piece of cream cardstock so it would be easier to write your message and you wouldn't have to worry about your moody gel pens acting up right in the middle of your message. I thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope you learned something from my tutorial, and I hope to see you again. For more inspiration, please feel free to go to my Instagram page, linked below in the description or at the end of the video. See you next time.